So it looks like quite a few of you um, have already finished class one. So that helps me. You can take your hands down for me. Thank you very much. Um, that then takes me to some housekeeping things, and then I'll do the introduction to those who have yet to meet Bruce. And your life will change after listening to the things that he shares and teaches in this course. So, again, I will be your moderator. And I would like for you to be very careful with how you phrase your questions when we get to that part, because this is a private course for AFT 1521A members, but we're in a public forum. And so privacy is very important. So keep your personal, financial, and or health information, because oftentimes they are linked together, private. In other words, don't feel so comfortable to share it in this public forum, or mind you, that of another person that may be in your life. Also, we are recording again, and the slide presentation will go out, be available after the session is over for you to review some things that you may have missed in this session, as the session is live. Polling questions, we're going to have a lot of those, and this is to keep everything interactive. So we really want you to answer the polling questions once they launch. It really helps us to see how many people are keeping up with the information. And if you have questions while the presenter is presenting or speaking, please be aware that he cannot see the chat, nor a lot of times can he see the poll questions coming up. So send me your questions, and at the specific time that I find a break to break in with a question, I will do so on your behalf, okay? So if you could just send me a chat message, I will make sure to send that info, ask that question for you during the presentation. At the end of the session, however, we will have a questions and answer period. To keep that orderly, would you please be mindful to raise your hand? The last session, we had so many people excited about the information. We opened up as questions and answer portion, and everybody started talking at the same time. So you'll see at the bottom of your Zoom screen this nice heart. If you click on that, the raise hand button is inside of there, the icon. If you could press that to make sure that you're recognizing the order of those hands going up.
Katreya,
And
really
then,
quickly, did you make me
yes.
co-host? I'm just
Oh,
gonna
yes,
start inviting people.
absolutely.
Thank you.
And also, to build community, we're asking that everybody please do us a big favor and turn on your cameras for us. And the reason for that is um, it does help us to build the community, but at the same time, it also lets us see, you're eager for some answers, and maybe you haven't raised your hand, or you've been waiting a minute to break in with a question at the end. We'll be able to see you. Now, the other thing is, we're not pressuring you to turn on your camera. So if you don't feel comfortable, that's okay. But if you do, please do so. Okay. The last thing I want to do now is to let you know that for those of you that this is your first and second class now going to be completed, you will receive a certificate of completion along with a Panera Bread gift card, compliments of AFT 1521A. And so Bruce is our presenter. He has dedicated his retirement years to making financial literacy accessible to all. Bruce graduated from Dartmouth. He has an AB in economics. He was a summa cum laude, and also a part of the Phi Beta Kappa. And he has graduated also from Stanford, their graduate school of business, with an MBA with the top 10 honors program, 10%. And so he is he's quite wise. A lot of how to understand money you're going to get. And today it's going to be more into the investing side of things. But he developed this course and he has taken his retirement years to foster this beautiful mission to teach all of us about it. He taught this course at Dartmouth, Princeton, USC, LACC, that's City College, to our AFT faculty, to Habitat for Humanity, Women in Network, the Department of Mental Health, LAPD, and many more groups and organizations throughout Southern California. He has empowered thousands of people to make their way to financial freedom. And he holds a lot of wisdom, I must say. He not only teaches this course pro bono, but the most significant thing, I think the one giveaway that he gives tirelessly to is that he offers no cost coaching, money coaching to everyone that completes his course. And so if you are attending the session 2 and you've attended session 1 and you haven't already booked your appointment with him, he will talk to you more about that towards the end. Feel free to, call on him, to set up an appointment to call on him and utilize his wonderful services. The last thing I want you to know is that he has no connection with any financial company, so he's not here to sell you anything. Okay. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Bruce, and Bruce, take it away.
Thank you, Katrelia. Thank you, Andrea. Great to be here again for session 2 of Understanding Money, Financial Literacy for All for Free. Just like we did in session 1, we're going to start with a bit of an icebreaker where we asked everybody, go back and do your budget 2.0. And that was a timely ask because the month started today.
Mhm.
And we asked everybody, remember we played a quick game and how great you guys were in figuring out the at most 5 or 6 absolute needs you have in your budget. And we talked about distinguishing between the two and committing to throttling back on some of the wants. And so here's our first question for today, and we'd love for everybody to participate in the chat or raise your hand. Relooking at my monthly budget, I've committed to cutting back or eliminating blank from my budget. Okay? So I would love to hear from our fellow Staff Guild members what great budget saving tips they've come up with since last time. Okay. I heard a hand go up, it sounded like.
Yeah, Andrea.
I think I was trying to save money while also keeping my credit cards utilization pretty high. And the key takeaway I took was that you can't save because you're still prolonging your debt. So I started throwing some of the savings towards that debt, bringing down the credit card utilization. So that's one of the key things that I was able to do. Although my savings looks dismal, I have now, I feel more confident that it's still within a balance where I won't go back to utilizing the cards, cutting down on the interest and looking better as a lender with companies to increase my credit score. So that's one thing I started to do. I broke down and itemized all of my bills. I'm still looking at the subscriptions because they tend to be hidden to look at where I really am falling along. So I did that assignment with an Excel sheet that, it's been very helpful. So, but the main takeaway is that you can't save while in debt. You can save a portion, at least maintaining a minimum of $1,000, and then everything else needs to just go to the surplus until I can really actually start to save without owing. So that's it.
Those are great tips, Andrea. You're so good at this. You can teach this next time instead of me. Who else? Anybody else? A good saving tip. Something that you're spending less on or committing to. Yes. I can't see who the person is, so you guys can call on them.
I see Bobby. He wrote Starbucks 7 days a week to 3. So cutting it down on the needs and wants. I agree with you, Bobby. I'm a pro member. I have Anna Marie Diaz working to get rid of storage. So she's working to get rid
Ah,
of storage. And Alita Campbell, deleting my cable TV. Then you get
uh,
into subscriptions, but
those are all fantastic. I love them. I heard a webinar a couple months ago. 78% of people have a streaming subscription they forgot they even had.
yep.
So everybody
Yeah.
Go back, look at your auto pay. When I was growing up, there were 3 television channels. We do not need 3,000. Cut, cut back. But anyway, those are all great. And please, everybody, as I talked last week, behavioral change requires a change in behavior. So whether you're trying to eat more healthfully or exercise at the gym, please do these monthly budgets just like Andrea was just talking about. Now's the perfect time. It's May 1. Commit to it and cut back on those wants, and you will wind up with more money than you had in April. So,
Two more.
There's one more hand. Did
Yeah,
Ramiro get a chance to go?
no, just what Ramiro, and then Natalie said she's thinking about getting rid of her car and moving to public transportation. So getting out of.
wow, a huge
Wow.
one.
Mhm.
Wow.
Cute. Oh, hi. I was just gonna say, I switched to like buying like little Starbucks double shots in bulk from Costco
Yes.
instead of just buying like a latte here and there a day. So I just get a cup. That's a huge savings. So I don't even have to go
Mm.
or waste time also on gas. I just bring coffee to go to work at
Love
home or
it.
make my own because that adds up.
You are
So
correct. It's like
and I
five.
no, it's more. It's like $7 now just for a
Mhm.
latte. It's
Oh,
ridiculous.
well,
I was like, they definitely increased their prices, and I live, in a neighborhood with nothing but bougie little coffee shops,
yeah.
and they're not cheap. So like, okay, I'm just gonna that'll save a couple hundred for sure.
Bravo, bravo to all of you.
Bravo.
Thank
Love
you.
it.
Thanks.
Oh, okay, well, today is all about investing, like Katrelia said up front. We're going to start with some definitions. What is investing? It means building assets. And then you're going to say, well, great, what does that mean? And then I'm going to say, it means building things that have value, okay? An asset is something that you own that has value. Lots of different kinds of assets. The first kind are tangible ones, things you can actually touch. Your computer, furniture, a vehicle if you have one. The second kind of assets are intangible ones, things you can't touch, but are far more precious than money. Your character, your personality, your abilities, things that don't directly lead to money, but make you a good team member at your various schools, make you a hard, dependable worker, and eventually lead to the third kind of assets, financial assets, things you can turn into money. And those are the ones we're going to talk about today, what they are and how to invest in them. I promised you in the last session, whether it was Tuesday or a week ago, we have a lot to cover in this session. We're going to start with the first two things you need to know about any investment. And then we're going to kind of zoom out to 50 feet and talk in general terms about two kinds of investments that I think are wise, then how they make you money and what role they might have in a plan. Next, how to structure and time your investments. Number 6, we're going to go back to number 2 and look at the opposite. Meaning, if number 2 are the wise things, number 6 are the things I think you should stay clear of. Number 7, how to choose an investment company. Now, you don't have any choice at work because you're in the city or state retirement plan. But for any money that you would invest outside of work, like where you had to choose a checking account place or a savings account company, I'm going to talk to you about how to choose an investment company. Then in number 8, we're going to go back again to number 2, and instead of talking generally, I'm going to talk about specific investments that you might consider, and that will help bring these principles to life when you're actually looking at specific investments. And then in number 9, we're going to take an anonymous 1521A member, someone who's been really diligent. They've gotten themselves out of debt. They have a nice emergency fund, and they're going to begin saving and investing. We're going to follow along and build a plan using their numbers. And then you folks, when you have the money, you can use their plan as a model and plug in your own numbers. So we're going to start with the first two things to know about an investment. The fancy terms are over here in white on green: investment returns and risk or volatility. So quick show of hands, has anybody ever heard anybody say, oh, this investment has ginormous returns, or this investment is really high risk, or this investment is really low volatility? Has anybody ever heard those terms thrown around? Okay, I'm hearing a couple pings, by apparently a lot of you. Okay. Well, remember I said at the beginning of the course, I try to keep this thing in jargon-free, plain-spoken language. So let me bring these down to just common language that I can relate to. Investment returns simply means, boy, a lot of you, I love that. Investment returns simply means, do I expect this investment to earn a lot of money, a medium amount, or not very much at all? Risk or volatility in plain language means, how much do I expect the value of my investment to bounce around, to roller coaster over time? Now, the critical thing to remember from this page is you can't have one without the other. If you're going to swing for the fences and put your money in something that has the potential to earn a lot, you're going to have to put up with more wobbles, more up and down in the price of the investment. So if anybody ever comes and whispers in your ear, oh, I've got this great investment, it's going to earn you a ton of money and there's no risk, you know to run away from that person because there is no such thing. Going for bigger returns means taking more risk and putting up with more up and down in the value of the investment. Okay, two general areas that I think are wise to invest in. Don't worry yet if you know what stocks and bonds are, but this chart was built based on nearly 100 years of data. The first row speaks to how much money you could expect to earn, that first point, and the second row speaks to the volatility, the how much the price changes over time. Now, as you'll see here, stocks have earned the most money over time, 10% a year. Now, that means if you had a stock that was worth $100 in January, you would have $110 in December. That's a 10% return. If all you did was look at the first row of this chart, you'd say, well, gee, I should have all my money in stocks because 10 is more than 6, which is more than 0. But remember the catch, the price roller coastering. While stocks have earned an average of 10% a year, do not, repeat, do not take from that you made 10%, 10%, 10%. No, look at how crazy stocks can be. In their worst year, they lost 43%, and in their best year, they made over 5 times the 10%, meaning a wide range, a big dramatic roller coaster. Bonds move much, much less than that, and cash, of course, doesn't move at all. So again, just to reprise these first couple pages, if you're so scared that you say, ooh, gee, I never want my investment value to change a penny, look here at the bottom. Your only alternative would be to keep your money in cash or under your mattress, which I hope nobody will do because then the value gets eaten up by inflation. But the point is, the amount of risk you're going to take, like if you go, oh, I only want to take a medium amount of risk and you're in the bond category, then you should expect to earn way less than you would on stocks. Okay? Now let's get into exactly what stocks and bonds are. But before we do, we have a polling question, which is before today, how well did you understand what they were? And we should stress here, like we did for anybody who hasn't been to our sessions, like the old Las Vegas commercials, what goes in the computer stays in the computer. Katrelia, Andrea, and I will not know what you're saying. So don't be embarrassed that you didn't understand what stocks and bonds are. We want to get a good read on the 1521A community. So please be honest. Before today, were you in the not at all, the somewhat, or the very well category? And again, Katrelia, I have to rely on you since I can't see the tallies.
Correct. Oh, we're up to 82%.
I
Wow.
love how quick you guys did this in the last sessions as well. I love that we don't have to push you. This will keep the class moving. It'll also keep you awake.
Here are the results. We're at 83.
Very good. Okay, so a small group is in the not at all and very well category, and about 2/3 of you are in the kind of category. Again, very typical of what I see at the various schools where I teach this. Once again, thank you for participating. Now let's go through exactly what they are for those of you who didn't quite understand them, because I want everybody to understand them very well. What is a stock? A stock is a piece of a company. Like you've heard of the term share of stock. That means you own a share of the company. We'll use the example of Facebook, which is now called Meta. There are 2.5 billion pieces of the Meta company. So if you owned a share of Meta, you would own 2.5 billionth of the organization. Two ways you can make money on a stock. The first way is if the price goes up. So we'll take our $100 stock in January. Let's say the price grows to $108 in December. That's an 8% return. You made 8% on the growth in price of the stock. The second way you can make money on a stock is when it pays what is called a stock dividend. Can anybody raise their hand or come off mute and share what they think the definition is of a stock dividend?
Believe it's money sent to you is like a form of profit sharing as a stock owner.
Natalie is exactly correct. She can co-teach this course as well. It's when a company makes money, like Natalie said, and they decide to share some of it with you. The average dividend across all the stocks in the world is about 2%. So on our $100 stock, you would get $2 a year. Dividends get paid quarterly. So you would get 50 cents 4 times a year, because 50 times 4 is $2. Now, look at the numbers we just went through. You made 8%, $8 on the growth in price, and you made $2 on the dividend. 8 plus 2 is 10. That's that 10% return on stocks. Can we all agree that 8% is way more than 2%? I hope the answer is yes, which is why here at the bottom, in your little toolbox of stocks and bonds, stocks are your growth engine because growth is where you get most of your money. Moving on to bonds. When you own a bond, you don't own a company or a government. You are a lender to a company or government. It's kind of the opposite of a credit card. With a credit card, like Andrea was talking about earlier, you have money that you don't own that you borrow from someone else and you pay them interest. With a bond, you take money that you do own, you lend it to somebody, a company or a government, and they pay you interest. Clearly, we'd rather be in that category where the interest is coming to us. Two ways you can make money on a bond. First way is on the interest payment. We'll take a $100 bond in this case, and we'll say it pays 5% a year. 5% of $100 is $5. You would get, bonds pay twice a year, not 4 times. So you would get $2.50 twice a year. Now, you can also make money if a bond goes up in price, but as you saw on the prior page, they don't do it nearly as much as stocks. And in fact, while your stocks are going crazy, like the market has been the last couple of weeks, your stocks are going up and down like this, your bonds are much calmer. They're much more stable. So look here at the bottom. You buy bonds for that steady income. Bonds are required to pay, in this case, the 5% every year. They can't be cut like a dividend. A company doesn't have to pay a dividend. They have to pay on the bond. So you have that guaranteed 5%, 5%, 5% income and the stability in price that offsets the more crazy stuff that's happening on the stock side. Cash, of course, is not an investment. We talked about this last time. You use cash to pay your bills, to get out of debt, to have an emergency fund, and then you take your extra cash and you invest it. Okay? Any quick questions on what a stock and bond are? I hope now everybody understands it. When you own a stock, you're an owner of a company. And when you own a bond, you are a lender to a company or a government.
Bruce, I have a hand raised.
Please.
Hi, I just had a question regarding the bonds. So you said right now that they have to pay you back.
Yes.
So in your previous slide, you said bonds also have, I guess it fluctuates risk. So you're
Yes.
saying it has stocks, they don't have to pay you back.
Correct. A stock,
Because
that
you can go
dividend,
up and down.
well, we're talking about the dividend now. Remember,
Okay.
that 2%, they can increase it, they can decrease it, they can suspend it and make it go away. Okay?
Mhm.
It is not a guarantee. It's not.
Okay.
The bond, by law, they have to, if it's 5%, I'm just using it as an example, they must pay that every year without fail over the life of the bond.
Got it.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just needed that
No
clarification.
sweat. No, no. Thank you for asking, Lisa. We love the questions. Again, you guys have been extremely engaged. Follow her model and ask anytime.
I have one question in the chat, but I think it was
Nope.
answered.
Oh,
Are,
okay.
are bonds FDIC insured? I see someone said no. Just wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, bonds are not insured, but let me give you good news, bad news. You invested in a company, and one of you bought the stock in the company, one of you bought the bond. God forbid the company goes out of business. When they take whatever money the company had left, the first people that get paid back are the people who owned the bonds. So a bond is much less risky. Okay. First priority is paying off the bond people, and anything left would go to the stock people. But no, a bond is not insured. Okay. Two ways you can invest in stocks and bonds. The first way is you like a particular company or a government, and you go buy that stock or bond. The second way you can do it is when you buy a basket, a collection of stocks or bonds. The term for it is mutual fund or ETF, exchange traded fund. It simply means a collection of stocks or bonds. So picture a huge basket that may have 1,000 different companies or governments in it. They work just like individual stocks or bonds. If the average price of the basket goes up, you make money. If it drops, you lose money. If they pay a dividend or an interest payment, you make money. Importantly, you do not build the basket. I'm big on food analogies, as you will see throughout today's session. You go to the grocery store and you see one of those pre-made salad mixes. You didn't tell the grocery store how much lettuce and carrots to put in the bag, right? They did it for you. It's the same with these baskets. They are pre-made. There are lots of different kinds of baskets because they can have lots of different kinds of stocks or bonds in them. I'm going to be talking later about the kind of basket I believe is the wisest. But for right now, just all you have to remember is, these mutual funds and ETFs are a big basket where your money's spread out over lots of different companies or governments. But before talking about which one I would buy, we have our next polling question, which is before today, how well did you understand this term mutual fund and ETF? Again, just like before, not at all, somewhat, or very well. Remember, completely confidential. And I'm going to bet everybody a nickel that our understanding is less of this than stocks and bonds in general. At least that's what I learned in all my other classes. So please answer quickly, and we'll rely on Quatrelia to tell us when to close.
Yes, we're at 67% now.
Okay, but please, everybody participate. Like she said at the beginning, we need to get an accurate read on the 1521A community, and if you stand back, we're not getting a good statistical test.
Okay, let's
And the results.
share the results.
It is like I said, remember before this number at the bottom was 17, I think, and now 37% didn't understand them. Only about half understood them very well, and a small group in the very well. Again, I joked last time. That's why we call the class Understanding Money. Okay, but I hope now nobody's daunted by the term. Anytime going forward you hear the term mutual fund or ETF, you just say to yourself, yeah, that's no big deal. It just means someone has pre-built a basket with a huge group of stocks or bonds. Okay. The issue then is, which way do we go? Do we buy individual ones and try to pick a stock or bond, or do we go with the basket? My plea, heartfelt to all of you, is the only thing, excuse me, the only thing you ever consider buying is the basket. Notice I put it in italics for emphasis. Why am I so emphatic about that? Well, these first 2 points are the first 2 points we started the meeting with. The returns you're going to make, the money, and how much risk you're taking. Here are the facts. Even so-called stock experts, much more often than not, do not pick individual stocks or bonds that beat the basket. So if the so-called experts can't do it, I'm putting myself in the same category right along with you, You and I have no business whatsoever, period, picking a stock or a bond on our own. I don't care that you like a particular tech company or that a friend of yours has whispered a company in your ear and gotten you all enchanted about it. Forget about it. Even though your friend may have accidentally made money, it's like saying we should all invest by going to Las Vegas because we accidentally had a friend who made money one weekend in Las Vegas. It's a terrible long-term strategy. So I beg of all of you, don't ever, ever, ever try to pick individual stocks or bonds. The second reason not to do it, the risk. If you're just picking a small number of stocks or bonds and one of them blows up, like we talked about earlier, they go out of business, you just wiped out a huge share of your money. The baskets I'm going to talk to you about spread your money out literally over thousands of different investments. The fancy term is diversification. It just means you spread your money out. So if any one of them goes bad, it only affects a very small percentage of what you are worth. Third reason to not do it. Has anybody here ever heard of Warren Buffett? Quick show of hands. I'm hearing a bunch of pings. That's because he is one of the most successful investors of all time, picking individual companies like I'm telling you not to do. He is 1 in 100 million kind of people, okay? Get this, he told his wife that when he dies, she should just buy baskets like what we talk about in the class. So forget what you think about me. One of the geniuses of all time has said, don't even think about buying individuals. Finally, this is the way millions of us have been able to retire with dignity. Again, for every one person who accidentally picked a stock or bond, I go with where the numbers are, which is this is the way tons of us have done it, and I recommend you do the same. Any questions on that? The logic between these big baskets or trying to cherry pick your own investments?
I have a question in the chat.
Yes.
Kind of on to the point, but the person's wondering if you had already picked an individual stock, well, how do
Yes.
I retrieve the mistake?
I love the question. You sell it. Okay. Now we can talk about it more in one of those private Zooms that Katrelia alluded to up front. But here's the easy way and the not so easy way. If it's in a retirement plan, meaning a plan through your employer, right, through the 1521A investment plan, then there's no tax consequences. You can sell it and buy the basket tomorrow. It doesn't cost you a penny. If, however, the money is invested outside of a retirement plan and you are showing a profit, you paid $10 for the stock and it's worth $12, there will be a little tax on the $2 profit.
Mm.
But if you've lost money or have made next to nothing, there's no tax. So you don't just stick in it because you're afraid of a little bit of tax. But again, we can talk about your personal situation more in a private Zoom. But the fact that you've done it, and I'm not giving you a hard time on it, but you've learned your lesson and you go, okay, I'm not going to give myself a hard time. I'm going to draw the line and I'm going to get out and not do it again.
And I think I have another hand up.
Yes?
I have Joharan, excuse me if I said that wrong.
No, it's
Followed
okay.
by Natalie.
Okay, Joran, go ahead and ask, please.
Okay, maybe it was an old hand. I'm going to move to
Okay.
Natalie.
Yep.
So, not just the work fund, but if we have money in an IRA, is that
Yeah.
also true?
Yep. In an IRA, absolutely no tax consequence.
Okay,
Sell
perfect.
it tomorrow, no problem. Remember, I said the only distinction, I said outside of a retirement plan.
Got
And
it.
an IRA is a retirement plan, it's just not through work.
Gotcha.
So
Perfect.
again, back to my easy and harder. Within a retirement plan, no sweat either way. Outside of a retirement plan, there may be tax consequences, but only if you're showing a profit. Okay. So next point, how do I want you to time your investing? I want you to be what is called a buy and hold investor. Can anybody come off mute and share, or either that or in the chat, what they think it means? What is a buy and hold strategy for investing?
I would say it's similar to what we're doing on our 401k. We're putting money in our investment for retirement and we're holding until we retire. We're not liquidating and trying to beat the market by moving money around.
You are exactly correct, Andrew. This is a genius group. You're all going to teach this with me next time. He is exactly right. The term means what it sounds like. You buy the thing and you hold on. You do not, repeat, do not get all panicked by what's going on in the market lately and say, ooh, gee, now's the time to sell, or ooh, gee, now's the time to buy, or in its worst incarnation, day trading. You may have heard of that, where people will literally be trading dozens or hundreds of times in a day. Ignore all that. Remember, I said we're going through an amazingly turbulent time in the stock market right now. It happens every few years, okay? My best advice, just like on your 401 or your 403B at work, you don't panic. You just invest regularly out of each and every paycheck. And back to my $100 example, let's say you're in a basket and in January it was at 100 and today it's at 90. Do you say, oh my gosh, the sky's falling, I've lost $10? No. You say, I keep investing because I can buy more at 90 than at 100. It's on sale. I'm now going to share some numbers with you that prove the wisdom of doing what I call don't just do something, stand there, meaning you put the money in and you leave it alone. Number one, remember I said you make about 10% in the stock market historically. 50% of that, 5% roughly, returns happen on just 3 or 4 days a year. Nobody has the crystal ball to know when those days are going to be. So the only way to capture half of the money you're going to earn is by being invested 100%, 365 days, year in and year out. Some more numbers to share with you. Remember that chart I showed you with the 100 years of data? I want you to picture that you're locked in a room and the walls are plastered with the calendars from those nearly 100 years. And you're blindfolded and you have a dart in your hand and you spin around like pin the tail on the donkey and you throw the dart at the wall hundreds of times, like a statistical test with a coin flip. And then you take the blindfold off and you look at all the holes in the calendars, meaning completely random days where you invested, okay? Each of those is where you put money in. And then you count forward 1, 5, or 10 years from where that dart hit, where you've done nothing. Look at this. Just staying put for 1 year, you have a 3 out of 4 chance, 75% chance of making money. 5 years, nearly 90%. 10 years, 95%. Now think about your own investment horizons. Many of you on this call are going to work another 10, 20, 30, I don't know how old you all are, years or more, and you hopefully are going to live another 20 or more years in retirement. So based on the fact here that historically you've almost always made money after 10 years, historically you would have been guaranteed anything beyond that. And certainly in 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you'll make money. So long story short, chill, don't do anything, just put the money in and you will do just fine. But that's it, a buy and hold investing philosophy. Now, I think it sounds like a question perhaps.
It's me, your co-moderator here. So, what was the question? I just had it. When you're saying you're talking about a basket, baskets can be considered, and buying a basket can be for both stocks and bonds, to buy a basket for either or.
Exactly. We're going to be talking, remember I said we're going to be talking about specific examples to bring it to life in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, things I want you to stay clear of. Notice I caveat, I say for most, stay away from real estate. And to be clear, I don't mean your individual home, condo, townhouse. I'm fine on you having your own place. I'm talking about getting in deeper and buying commercial real estate. Things like an apartment building for people to live in, or a storefront or whatever for a company to do business in. I'm saying for the vast majority of people, stay away. Why? Number one, they're expensive just like houses are, so they require debt. Remember from last time, the only debt, repeat, the only debt I find acceptable is on your own home. So I don't want you to double down on real estate and go deeper into debt buying something else. Okay? Number two, it's really complicated. You have to be honest with yourself. And I'm putting myself in this category too. Are you an expert at evaluating local cities to determine which areas have the best potential to make money in real estate? Chances are your answer is no. Are you an expert at marketing properties? No. And are you an expert in repairing? No. So with no, 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 we stay away. Next, they're really illiquid. These mutual fund or ETF baskets, if you own 100 shares, you can sell 1, 10, 50 shares and have your money tomorrow. You can't do that with real estate. It can take months or years to sell depending on how bad the market is. And if those things aren't a big enough headache, consider all these other hassles. What are you going to do when the tenant skips town and stops paying? Even worse, what are you going to do when they stay in the unit and refuse to pay? Or when they trash the place? Or when they call you at 2 a.m. with a broken toilet? The fact is, real estate requires an enormous amount of headspace. You are constantly supervising, maintaining, repairing, screening tenants, getting woken up, okay? Contrast that with these mutual funds or ETFs. They pay their dividends, they pay their interest. You look at them for 5 minutes once a quarter just to see how you're doing, but you don't have to dedicate your life to them. And remember also, you've spread your money out over thousands of companies or governments around the world. You don't have all your money in one or two pieces of real estate in a single city. Okay? Long story short, stay away from real estate. What else am I saying to stay away from? All the FOMO things you've heard about. Oh, the sky is falling. I should be buying gold. You hear those commercials all the time. Well, let me give you the numbers. We'll look at long term because that's the way you invest. You don't invest for a week or two. Pretend 40 years ago you had $10,000 and you put it in gold. Today you'd have $65,000. If you'd put the same 10,000 in the stock market, today you'd have 425,000. You'd rather have 65 or 425? Commodities. You hear about, oh, there's a famine somewhere in the world. I should be buying wheat or something. Commodities are a highly risky category, require years of training. Most people lose money on them. Don't even think about buying wheat or soybeans or oil or any other kind of commodity. And then, of course, the FOMO of all time, particularly of late, currencies, and the more specific one, crypto. You obviously know I'm anti-crypto. I'll share more about my feelings in a moment. But first, we have our next polling question. Again, totally anonymous. We want to get in and understand everybody's current experience, behavior with crypto. So you fall into one of three categories. I've already bought some. I haven't bought any, but I've been tempted, or I have little or no interest. Again, for the umpteenth time, confidential. I'm not giving anybody a hard time if they have bought any, but I owe you my own explanation of why I don't do it. So please answer honestly. In Katreya, we got a big enough number?
I think we're at 88%. That looks pretty good.
Yeah,
That's
pretty good.
terrific.
Yeah.
I love these numbers. First, this group up here at the top, the 13 and 18, I'm saying repeatedly, I give everybody some grace. I'm not trying to embarrass anybody. I beg of you, just like the person was asking before about individual stocks. I don't care if you've made, lost, or broken even. I would sell the stuff this afternoon. It is gambling pure and simple. It is like flushing your money down the toilet. I will bet you lunch at Panera that you have no idea how the market works. You've been just enchanted by claims of get rich quick. Warren Buffett calls it like rat poison squared. Okay? I can't be any clearer. Get down here with the 70% of people. Don't even think about it going forward. Just stick with the mutual funds and ETFs. I hope I wasn't being unclear. Okay. Number 7, choosing an investment company. Remember, I said this is not something you can do at work because you have the plan through the 1521A. I'm talking about where you'd have an IRA outside of work or an investment account in a taxable account outside of work. But I tell people, do your homework. My joke is that we spend more time planning a vacation than we do what to do with our money. but I'm going to share what my family did. Here were the criteria we were looking at. We wanted a big trusted company that put their investors first and that had really low costs. But before going on, it sounds like there may be a question.
Andrea.
It's me again. So this is all new. I'm still working on the
No, go
part A.
for it.
So working on part A and before part B for me. But so even if we have our retirement, our 401(b) through the district, we can still invest in a South IRA to have a secondary form of retirement that we can choose and elect for our own personal self to use for investment.
Exactly correct.
Yeah.
And at the end, remember I talked about food analogies.
Yeah.
I'm going to be talking about 3 separate refrigerators where you can store these mutual funds. Okay. So hang with me. The answer is yes. You are not, repeat, you are not limited to what you can do at work. Because if you have extra money, it's the old math game. The more money you put aside inside work or outside of work, the wealthier you're going to be. We'll talk about the limits and a lot of other details later.
Will you be covering if there's any government insurance on investments?
I can. I'll handle it now. You're not, as I said earlier on the bond thing, you're not insured that a stock goes down in value and you get insured. You are insured for your accounts at the various investment companies, and the insurance is some absurdly high level, like a couple $100 million. So I don't think any of us is at risk of having more than that. Your accounts are completely insured at the companies in case the investment company where you put your money went bankrupt. Okay, but your money is safe. Okay. So I said we were looking for a big trusted company and so on. Here's the odyssey my family went through. First of all, there are literally hundreds of companies out there that sell these mutual funds and ETFs. My family went with a company called Vanguard. There's plenty of other good ones as well. You may have heard some names like Fidelity or Schwab or T. Rowe Price or places like that. But again, I'm just going to walk through what we did. Okay, first, was Vanguard big? No, they're ginormous, $9 trillion. And get this, around 25% of all investments in the US are being done at this single company. That's how popular they are. Are they trusted? Absolutely. 50 million families like yours and mine. Third, do they put us, their investors, first? Yes. They are literally the only company out there that is not either traded on Wall Street, where they have to earn money for their stockholders, or where they're not owned by billionaire families where they have to make money for the family. Okay? We, the people who own these baskets, these mutual funds and ETFs, we actually own Vanguard. And so because we keep track of what they're doing and we don't want their costs to be high, we make sure they keep their costs low, meaning they don't pay great, huge salaries, they don't have fancy offices, because the money is coming out of our pocket. This notion of fees and what you're paying wherever you're investing is so important. We're going to talk more about it on the next slide, but it sounded like I'm hearing that maybe another question is.
Andrew has a question.
Please share it.
Well, it wasn't necessarily a question. It was just to let everyone know that we do have the ability to open up the 403(b) through our payroll, and Vanguard is an option within that group, and ETFs, low-cost ETFs through Vanguard are available as well.
Thank you.
And we have the 457 as well.
Please share.
Yeah, love it. Thank you guys for sharing. This doesn't surprise me because when I tell you that they control a quarter of the whole universe, they're obviously humongously popular, and I'm delighted that your respective school plans include them as an option. But thank you for letting me know that.
You're welcome.
If
Yep.
anyone is interested in the forms or the site that you can click on is called 403B Compare. You can shoot me an email and I'll send you all the information.
Love it. I love this, what a teamwork we have going here. Well done. Okay, the fees I talked about. There are 2 kinds of fees you can pay when you go to a place like Vanguard. The first is called the expense ratio. I put it in bold because it's so important. You need to learn this term. It simply means what they charge per year to build your basket. Think about it. They have to hire people to buy and sell the stocks and bonds. They have to house them in an office. They have to pay for their company benefits. They need legal and cost accounting. So they can't do it for free. Look at this. The average firm charges 5 times what Vanguard charges to run those baskets. The fees depend on which baskets you're in, but a typical one at Vanguard is somewhere between 40 cents and a little over $1 per year for every $1,000 you have in your plan. They also, on the fee side, do not charge any commissions when you buy or sell their mutual funds or ETFs. The second kind of cost you can pay when you go to an investment company is avoidable. This one you can't get away from. It's called the personal advisor expense. It's what the company charges if you decide to ignore my advice and say, I'm not going to pick the baskets, I'm going to hire them to pick them for me. When you do that, that hand-holding is going to cost you. At Vanguard, it's no more than $3 per year per 1,000, but importantly, it's on top of the fees on the baskets that the guy or woman is choosing for you. So you ask yourself, would you rather pay 40 cents a year or $3.40? I hope you'd say I'd rather pay 40 cents. And my hope is that by the end of today's session, you can see that picking these baskets on your own is simple enough that you don't need to lose $3 for every 1,000. The numbers are even worse at the other companies. Look, 10 to 12.50. I'm going to dramatize what you're giving up by using $10 because it happens to be a 1% of 1,000. Everybody see that? $10 is 1% of 1,000. Someday in your investing life, somebody may come to you and say, hey, you don't need to pick these baskets. I'll do it for you, and I only charge a teeny weeny 1% a year. And you may be tempted to say, well, you know, what the heck? It's only 1%. Let me show you what the give up is. We're going to pretend you're in your 20s and you had $10,000. And you're going to invest for 40 years till 65, traditional retirement age. Everybody get that? 10,000 from 25 to 65. And you're going to earn the 10% a year that we talked about in the early slides. After 40 years, your account will grow to $300,000 if you're losing every year 1% of the value of your account. Now that sounds pretty neat, right? 10,000 became 300,000. But the question is, how much more would you have had if you didn't take the 1% haircut? You kept the entire 10% return. So we're going to play a math game here. I want anybody, obviously you're going to have more than 300,000 because you're keeping all the money for yourself. I'm giving you a hint. How much do you think you would have had instead of 300,000? Somebody throw out a number. I've only had a few people guess it correctly in the history of my class. We'll see if we hit it today. More than 300,000, somebody throw out a number, please.
550,000.
I'm sorry, how much, James?
550,000.
A fantastic guess. You're a little high. Somebody else. So we now know it's between 300 and 550.
410,000.
You're very close, Andrea, but you're a little low. Okay, one more guess. We know now it's between 410 and 550.
475.
Again, very, very close, James. It's $450,000. Just let that number settle in your head for a minute. 50% more money. 450 is 50% more than 300,000. Who in their right mind wants to lose $150,000 for every 10,000 they started with? So think about that. Hopefully by the end of today, you're going to agree with me that if this thing is simple, like I hope I'm going to make it for you, you do not have to lose that money. You're going to be properly greedy on behalf of yourself. You're going to keep the whole money and you're going to get to the 450. And with that, we have a polling question now that I've explained what you give up when you pay for the babysitting. Okay? Again, I'm not asking if you feel it's easy right now. Just pretend I've made it easy for you. Are you going to go for the 450 or are you going to go for the 300?
We're cooking pretty good here.
Okay. We got to move this along, so let's close it quickly. Again, this should be an easy one. Like, would you rather have 450,000 or 300? All decisions should be that clear, right?
All right, here we go.
Okay. Okay, I love almost everybody is in the highly or somewhat category. For that not likely category, I honor your decision. Remember, I say repeatedly in this course, it's your money, but I beg of you to schedule one of the private Zooms with me because I want you to get comfortable enough that you don't have to lose 150,000 for every 10,000. But again, I honor where everybody is on this thing right now. Okay. Good news, bad news. The bad news is there are 10,000 different baskets out there. Completely overwhelming. You'd be saying I'd be nuts to think I made it easy, right? Well, here's the good news. With just 4 simple funds, you can have a fantastic program. Okay? I joke that many of you have at least 4 siblings, and you can remember the names of your 4 siblings. You can remember your name of 4 funds. So we're going to go through using these as a specific example. Remember I said earlier, to bring the concept to life, we're going to actually build a plan using these funds. They happen to be the ones that my family has invested in, so I'm putting my money where my mouth is. But as I keep saying, it's your call, your money. I don't make any money on this, like Cochelia said up front. You're going to do what you're going to do, but I owe it to you to at least walk you through what we did and why I think it's the way to go. So when I said your money's going to be spread out, it's really spread out across stocks and bonds, the 2 big categories, not just in the US, but internationally. We'll talk about why that's important. Across companies and governments, and across all sizes, large, medium, and small. Why is investing broadly, notice in bold, why is that so important? I'm going to go back to one of my food analogies, okay? We got 4 funds here. I want you to picture 4 deli sandwiches, those big 6-foot long deli sandwiches that you'd have at a picnic or a tailgate party. Everybody got that? 4 huge sandwiches. One of the sandwiches is US stocks. One of the sandwiches is international stocks. One of the sandwiches is US bonds. One of the sandwiches is international bonds. Okay? Now, remember I said you can build the baskets with very different personalities of what kind of stocks or bonds are in those. We'll take that total US stock market basket. You could have just bought a slice of that in a different basket where, I'm just going to buy big companies, or I'm just going to buy tech companies, or in the international, I'm just going to buy companies in Europe. I beg of you to not try to invest that way. If I were you, I would buy the entire market, meaning all the stocks and all the bonds in the US and internationally, because when you go and look at this checkerboard that will show you what those slices have done, you'll see there's no pattern. You have no idea in which years big companies are going to beat small, or European bonds are going to beat US bonds, or vice versa. So you don't even try. You just put your money in these 4 big baskets and don't worry about it. Here are the baskets. And you'll notice the name is a wonderful memory prompt for what's in the basket. Total stock market means all the stocks in the US. But when it says total international, it means stocks outside of the US. Same thing on the bond side. All the bonds in the US and all the bonds outside of the US in the total international. Are we clear on that? Picture it, whether you call them baskets, deli sandwiches, funds, I don't care. But our whole investment life, we ignore the other 10,000 funds and we just concentrate on these 4. Are there any questions? It sounds like there is one. You can come up.
I see you, Laura.
Go for it, Laura.
Hi, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know if my question might be a little bit off, but in regards to the 403B,
Yep.
I currently had my 403B with MetLife, and then it transferred to Bright House Financial. Can I transfer my 403B from Bright House Financial to Vanguard?
Okay, so when you say, I just want to make sure I'm clear. Is that at an organization? Were you employed somewhere else before the LA Community
LSC.
Colleges?
Yeah.
No, it's through it's payroll deduction. Oh, there's
The
Okay, and if-
403B
yeah, it's the
okay,
program.
and it's through work, you're saying?
yes, uh-huh.
Okay. If what I'm just going with what James said earlier, I'm not entirely sure, so bear with me. But if
Okay.
he's saying that Vanguard is an investment option at work, then I believe yes, you would just like you moved it from MetLife to Bright, whatever you were just saying before. In a similar way, you should be able to move it to Vanguard with no tax consequences, no problem at all. If Vanguard weren't offered by your company, then you couldn't do it. You can only move the money when you leave the company.
And Laura,
Oh, okay.
send me a email and request, and I'll send you the information on who to contact in the
Oh.
retirement department who manages that particular program.
Okay,
Okay.
but great question.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other?
Natalie?
Yes. So instead of doing the full stock market ETF options,
Yes.
do you know what the difference would be if you're doing more of like the green energy kind
Yes.
of
Yeah, exactly.
ones? Like, what is your
Yeah, excellent.
variation of return, I guess?
Excellent question. Okay. To use the term I set up a few moments ago, you would be buying a slice of the deli sandwich. You'd
Right.
be cherry picking only the green energy companies within the 5,000 companies that are in the US stock market. If I were you, I wouldn't do that. I applaud you for wanting to be ecologically, environmentally conscious. Bravo. I completely 110% agree with you. The problem is you are making a bet that in return for your principles, you're willing to go with a much narrower investment strategy. Okay.
Got it.
It's inherently way riskier, particularly with this administration in office now that
Yeah.
is insensitive to the environment. Okay. I don't want to get political,
Okay.
but it's a fact.
Sure.
If I'm you, I invest in the total stock market to earn the superior returns. And then here's how my own logic, I hope it helps you as well. That gives me the financial wherewithal to give to the charities and causes that support the environment like is so important to us. Okay?
Totally. Okay.
But I do not just buy the deli slice of the US sandwich that's green. I don't just buy the tech slice and so on. I buy the market.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
But brilliant question.
Last question.
Okay.
Last
Oh,
question,
yeah.
Bruce.
Yeah,
Is
yes.
what is your thoughts on mutual funds that target stock bonds that gauge risk, excuse me, based on retirement years? So what is your thoughts?
Yes. Yeah. No, okay. Yes, I just did a video on this that's going to post in a couple weeks. Those are called target date retirement funds. Okay. And as an example, you probably have them in your plan at work. Example, a 2040 target date fund was designed for someone who plans to retire in 2040, 15 years from now. Let me tell you the one pro of the account and then the two negatives that far outweigh the pro. The pro is it's easy. You collapse my 4 buckets into one, right? You go, hey man, that was easy. I just bought the one that's designed for my retirement. The only advantage of that was the simplicity. That the simple doesn't make it good though, and let me explain why. When they build the 2040 retirement fund, they've pre-made the mix according to how risky they think you should be. We'll talk about literally more about this in about 2 slides. You may want to be more or less risky than what's in the target fund, meaning you may want to have more stock if
Hello,
you're
can
more
you hear me now?
may want to be more risky and have more stock or less risky and less stock, but you're stuck with the pre-made salad mix, right? So for that one reason, for that first reason, I stay away from those funds because I want to choose the ratio that I feel comfortable with, not what they tell me to do for my age. The second reason I stay away from those funds is frequently the cost, that expense ratio we talked earlier, is higher than buying your own funds individually. Okay? So I don't,
Reboot
yes,
the computer.
yes, it's easy, but I don't do it just because it's easy. Okay? All right.
Georgie, did you have a question? Because I wanted to make sure before I muted you back. Georgie, did you have a question for Bruce?
Maybe
No,
not.
I'm good.
Okay,
Did you
thank you,
get
Georgie.
anything?
Okay, and if that other person can mute, that'd be great. Okay. So now we're on this, like the target date thing. How do we decide how to split our money between the two big buckets of stocks and bonds? Remember I said right here, no one size fits all, which is why I don't do the target fund. The fancy term is asset allocation, but the simple way of saying is what percent's going to be in stocks and what percent's going to be in bonds
Okay.
across those two buckets of mutual funds.
International. Okay.
Okay. Get this. This one decision, how much you put, what percent is in the stock bucket and what percent is in the bond bucket, will account for 90% of what happens to your money. So it's very, very important you make the decision carefully. Here's some general guidelines. If you're younger, you should tilt more towards stocks because you have more time to ride out the roller coaster.
Yeah.
If you promise to follow my advice and buy and hold, not sell, and if you have stable or growing income, which should be true with you as 1521A members because your income, I would think, is very stable as part of the union. However, you should tilt more towards bonds when you're older and closer to retirement, if you're going to ignore me and panic, or if your income was widely fluctuating. This still doesn't give you the percent, but I got you covered on this page. I want everybody, before they put another dollar in the 403B or 457, to go take this investor questionnaire. This link will be operative when you get the slides. It will take you 5 minutes to answer the most important decision you'll ever make on investing, okay? And it will diagnose your comfort with those two things we talked about up front: the amount of money, the returns you're seeking, and the amount of risk you're willing to put up with. And the algorithm in this thing will kick out, back to my food stuff, it'll kick out a recipe. If you're really, really, really aggressive, it may say, oh, I should be 80 or 90 or 100% stocks and the rest bonds. Or if you're in the middle, 60% stock and 40 bonds, or really conservative, 30% stock and 70, whatever it is. I don't dictate. It's whatever you guys decide. But very important, when you take the questionnaire, it will likely ask you stuff you haven't done before. Example, oh, when the stock market plummeted in 2000, did you panic and sell? Did you stay put? Or did you buy more? And you're going to say, 2000, I wasn't even working in 2000. Well, you can't answer blank and you can't answer NA. Here's what you do. You pretend you were alive and were investing when the time frame was being asked about, and you answer based on what you learned in the course. Otherwise, you can't get the recipe, okay? Now, I promise we're going to take a 1521A person and we're actually going to build a plan now using their numbers that you guys can model later. 5 steps to this, okay? The first one is it's simple. We write down the amount of money we have. And our person, like I said, they've gotten out of debt. They've saved a really nice chunk of money. They have $24,000 to their name, so they write it down on a piece of paper. Everybody see that? Step number 2, for those of you who are attentive, which you all are from our first session, we know we do not, repeat, we do not take every dollar we have and throw it into investing. We earmark some of the money for what? Can somebody share with the group? We put aside money for what?
Emergency.
Bingo, exactly, Andrew. Remember we talked earlier, and I think Andrea brought it up as well, a modest $1,000 emergency fund starting out, but once we're out of debt, we amp that up to 3 to 6 months of expenses. And we subtract that number, that emergency fund, from our total, and what's left is what we can invest. So for our person here, they feel good about their job. They think they're pretty safe. So they're going to go at the 3-month end, not 6 months. And they take their monthly expenses of $3,000 in this case. They multiply by 3. That means they have 9 in their emergency fund. They subtract 9 from 24. meaning they have 15 to throw into these buckets, okay? But remember, the rest of you, until you're out of debt and until you've built your emergency fund, you don't do this, okay? So here's what it looks like. See this? 9,000 in checking or savings where they can get at it in case there is an emergency fund, emergency need. Now, we just talked about this 3 minutes ago, so I hope you all remember. We have 15,000 to invest. We just took that all-important investor questionnaire. What is it going to show us? Who can remember? We took the 11 question questionnaire. It will help us split our money how?
To stocks versus bonds.
Bingo, Natalie. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Our person, they're young, they're aggressive. Their number came back 80-20. But remember I said, you do not repeat like the target date fund. You do not take 80-20. You go take the questionnaire to decide your own split. But in their case, we're going 80-20, 12 and 3. Everybody see that? Now, you're clicking with me. I love this. What is the next step? Remember, I showed you 4 different baskets. What are we now going to do with the stock bucket?
I'm going to put a percentage in international and US stock.
Fantabulous, Andrea. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, we're going to divide it, just like she just said. I'm going to give you some guidelines in a moment. But this all boils down to how comfortable you are investing in the US versus international. I'm going to share my own life story because I don't mind sharing my numbers or my feelings. When I started out, I was thinking, well, should I just buy the 2 deli sandwiches in America, meaning the US stock and the US bond? And then I saw a statistic similar to this one. We think we're pretty special in America, but we are not the only game in the world. Look at this. Half of the world's stock market is not in the US and over 60% of the bond market. Okay? So if you ignore this part of the world, you're ignoring huge deli sandwiches. And remember I said, in any given year, we have no idea whether the US is going to beat international or not. Example, the last couple years, the US has done better. Guess what? The year we're in right now, the US market is down and the international market is up, which is underscoring my point. We never know which part of the world is going to be up, which is why I go with all 4 deli sandwiches, not just the 2 in the US. A quick geographical quiz to underscore the point. Somebody quickly come off mute. What does the company Honda make and where are they headquartered?
Cars in Japan?
Exactly.
Japan.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so if you get all weirded out that, ooh, gee, I don't want to be an international, you can forget about Honda, you can forget about, small companies like IKEA and LG and Samsung and Mercedes and BMW and Nestle, the largest food company in the world. Anyway, I hope you all get it now. The US is not the only place to invest. We're going to talk about splits in a moment, but we have a polling question now. Now that you've heard the logic of having some of your money outside of the US, meaning those other 2 deli sandwiches, how comfortable are you having some percent? Don't worry about the percent yet, of having some money invested international. Actually, we got actually behind by one. This is the thing on that 80-20 that I talked about earlier, where you guys haven't taken the questionnaire yet, but we will be interested in your answers. I'm sorry, I forgot to ask for this question. So where do you think you are? You're willing to go for a higher return, but take more risk. You're going to be more moderate, or you're very scared and you don't want to take any risk, which I hope you're not in that category because that means cash or under your mattress. So quickly answer this and then we'll get to the international question. And the results. Okay, it looks like pretty much with the biggest group is in the moderate group. A bunch of you are swinging for the fences. And once again, for that 8%, I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but please understand, that literally means keeping your money in cash, where you won't earn anything and it'll get eaten up by inflation. I want you to please schedule a private class with or Zoom with me, not to convince you or browbeat you, but merely to explore this further, because I think it's not in your best interest to not invest at all. Okay? My joke is we all drive vehicles or cross the street. We know there's a risk of being hit by a car. That doesn't mean we just stay in our apartments, right? Same thing on the money side. And now the next polling question about the logic of international. Can we please bring that up? Okay, again, suspend for a moment what percent you'd be putting away. But just how are you feeling about having some money invested internationally? What's your comfort level? And the results? Okay, so I'm delighted to hear this because remember, I just snuck up on you. There are very few people in the low category, and most of the people are in moderate to high. I love it. So thank you for that. And I'm about to talk about the percentages, but it sounds like maybe we have a question.
Daryl, we see you.
Yes. I guess I look at I know about the stocks and how you do it, and Vanguard is a very good idea. My wife been doing it for years, and we've been doing it also. I actually have my boys also doing it too because they just started the job, and so they have to complement part of their earnings. Every time they get a paycheck, they put like 10% of their pay into it.
Yep.
So I'm trying to get them thinking. But I'm also worried about, most of the things I'm worried about is because of the political statute, what's going on in our government, that
Yep.
how are these big mood swings. I mean, the manipulation of stock have been horrendous in the last 3 months. And
Yes.
it's a shame. So in terms of international thing, we're looking at our international people, like in Canada and other states that we usually do with, that we always was equally partner with. Now they are turning to it and trying to use that to leverage against us. So how is that going to affect us in our stock market here?
Yeah, and I guess my best advice to you is I understand why it causes anxiety, but this too shall pass. Okay? We've gotten out of every crazy environment that we've had over 100 years. Think about it. Your alternative is to be paralyzed and sit on the sidelines and do nothing. If I were you, again, you do what you want. I would weather the storm, be secure in the knowledge that the market has calmed down from every drop over the last century. It will happen again. And the smartest thing you can do right now is to continue to invest. And I will give you kind of a gory quote. You can go look on this online from the famous family, the Rothschilds, the banking family from multiple hundreds of years ago. And here was their advice: invest when there is blood in the streets, even if that blood happens to be your own. Now, I know it's a gory metaphor, but the gist of it is the best time to invest is when things are crazy because the prices are down. Okay? So that's my advice. You don't just sit there. You don't worry about what's going on right now because your time horizon is not the remaining 900 days of this administration. It's decades. So ignore it and continue to invest.
I had a question. I saw a hand by Andrew.
Yep.
Andrew, did you still?
Okay, so I'll admit I do have a background in finance.
Yep.
I was a financial advisor for 20 years, and I was going to say the exact same thing that you just said, which is when the real estate market's down, that's when you go buy a house. When the stock
Exactly.
market's down, that's when you invest heavily in your investments.
Yeah, you're right. But most of us don't have extra cash on the side, and so that's why I revert to it's called dollar cost averaging, which
Exactly.
plain language just means we invest a set percent, 15% is my goal, as you know, out of each and every paycheck, buying more shares when the price is down and fewer shares when the price is up. But thank you for backing me up on that, Andrew. Okay, so here's the bucket.
Oh, I'm sorry. One more hand.
Yep.
Natalie.
Quick question. So in your 15%, would you be including the money that's coming out of our checks to go towards our pension?
Yes.
Okay,
You count that
for sure.
any money that you are already contributing to work is part of the 15. So again, simple math, you're putting in, I'm making up the numbers. You're putting in 10% at work. You would then do at least 5% in an IRA, or you'd beef up the work thing to be 15%. I don't know what the limits are, but
Yeah, we can't really do the pension part, but the
yeah,
403B is the
yeah,
option to
exactly.
like, yeah. Okay,
But
got it.
anyway, to use Natalie's example, the sum of the pension and the 403B should be a minimum of 15% of your gross. Okay? All right. So here's the guidelines on the stock side, somewhere between 70-30 and 50-50. Our 1521A person said, I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to pick the midpoint. Okay, so they went 60-40 on their stock bucket. And here's what it looks like. Total stock, total international. Okay, friends, what are we now going to do on the bond side? Somebody quickly.
Same thing, select diversification.
Yes, exactly, Andrew. This is not a trick question, folks. The tilt is a little more toward the US, somewhere between 80-20 and 60-40. Our person, again, took the midpoint. They said, I'm just going to go 70-30. Okay? But as I've said for 100 times throughout this, you're going to decide on your own split based on your level of comfort. But here's what it looks like. And these yellow numbers are taking the investable savings and percentaging them across the 4 buckets, baskets, sandwiches. This person has a half of their money, roughly, in US stocks, about a third of their money in international stocks, and the rest of their money split across bonds. Now, I know we've clipped through a lot, but this is like when you were in school and you reviewed your notes from your high school class or whatever. Think about what we just did. You took a 5-minute questionnaire to decide your version of 80-20, and then you took 5 minutes to decide how to do a sub-split on your stock and bond bucket. I hope you all see now that this did not merit giving up $150,000. Okay? This is your whole life in investing. 4 funds, that's it. Okay? Now, your final step, remember I talked about refrigerators, is deciding where to store these deli sandwiches. But again, repeating myself ad nauseum, we first go from the 1,000 emergency fund to a bigger one, and then we begin to invest based on the following slide. Now, I do this mostly for companies, so this is called a 401k, but pretend it's the synonym. Just pretend up here you saw the word 403b. Okay, everybody got that? Before we go into these words on the left, you'll notice here that this refrigerator has 2 green yeses, a company plan at work, an IRA, which is an individual retirement plan outside of work, gets 1 green yes, and a taxable account, meaning a non-retirement account outside of work, has no green yeses. Well, if you were thinking that, well, this one has 2 green yeses, that's where I should start, and this has 1 green yes, that's the second place, you would be correct. My sequencing for the 3 refrigerators where you're going to stuff them with the deli sandwiches, you first max out your plan at work, then you max out an IRA outside of work, and then you put any extra money, if you have any, in a taxable account outside of work. Now let's talk about why and what these terms mean over here. Free money / company match. You may have through your work plan a program where when you put aside $1, the union or the district will match X cents on top of your dollar. Isn't that true? You guys have in one of your plans, there is a match. Can somebody confirm that?
It's with the pension.
Okay. So that's a yes.
Yes.
So that is the only investment known to man and woman where that free money is there. So I hope you understand that's why the refrigerator you stash your mutual funds in starts with the plan at work. The second reason it gets a yes is because it's either tax-free or tax-deferred, which is really cool because you'd rather pay tax never down the road. The second refrigerator is the IRA. There's no company match because there's no company. It's you, it's Andrew, right? Natalie, somebody. but it has the same tax advantages as the plans do at work. So it gets a 1 yes, so you'd go put money there. And then if you're lucky enough that you had a boatload of money, you can invest as much as you want outside of work. And even though there's no's, that doesn't mean it's bad. You don't just blow all your money because you're going to pay a little bit of tax on the investment. You'd put money here as well. Now, as a practical matter, most of the people that I teach are going to wind up only having enough money to fill refrigerator 1 or maybe refrigerator 2. But let's look at what the limits are. For your plan at work, depending on your age, you can put aside somewhere between $23,000 and $31,000. For most people, that's just a boatload of money, and that's all they can do, okay? But if you're lucky enough that you have extra money, again, depending on your age, you can do 7 to 8 in refrigerator number 2. And if you're really, 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 really blessed with a ton of money, you can put whatever you want over here in refrigerator number 3. But does everybody understand that? We start with the plan at work, then we roll to refrigerator 2, and then to a taxable. Any questions on that? Okay. Oh, I spoke too soon. Please.
Natalie?
Sure.
Catralia, correct me if I'm wrong. For us, we would actually have the pension and then the 403B
That
and
is
then the
correct.
IRA. Okay, sure. We just have an extra column. I just wanted to
Gotcha.
confirm.
Yeah, you guys are so special. I didn't design the chart. You're the only organization I have that has 4 columns. But that's really cool. But you understand the point, though. You start with the plan at work, and within the plan at work, like you said, you have to put the 7% in the pension, correct? Everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
We don't have an option.
No. And I'm not complaining about that. But then what I would do is put anything extra getting up to the 15. I'm putting that where I can get the best match. If one of the plans is, does the pension doesn't match, but the 403B does match.
No, the pension matches.
The pension
not the 403B or the 457.
Gotcha. Okay, then given that, you're educating me along the way. I'm sorry, I got to catch up here. Then, to be clear, we obviously want the company, I call it company, but we want the school match, correct? Everybody?
Yes.
So we take any extra dollars we can put in, and we greedily, in a good way, reserve them for ourselves by going and mining that match. Are we clear?
And that would have to be in not the companies. We're not allowed to do extra.
Oh,
Only one we get to control
are the 403B and the 457.
correct.
Okay, and those do not have matches.
Correct.
Okay, so you're getting the match on the 7, right? Right? On the
Yes.
pension. Okay, so that you're fully exploring the match as much as you can, but then because you can do way more than 7,000 in the 403B and 457, you still do those before the IRA because you can do more than 7,000. Okay?
Got it.
Okay. All right. To further drill down into this, there's 2 flavors, again with me and food. There's 2 flavors of investments, a Roth and a traditional in a retirement plan. Okay? We're now going to explore the differences between the 2. And you'll notice here I go with the green and the red again. The Roth version has 2 green yeses. The traditional only has 1, which is why, here's spoil the surprise up here, for most people it's better to invest in a Roth. Now, does your plan at work offer both a Roth and a traditional?
The 403Bs do.
Okay, so you are faced, all of you, and what about the 457?
I'm guessing it mirrors the 403B.
Gotcha. Okay. So if when you started work, they put the paperwork in front of you and said, choose a flavor, or you can now do it now, let me explain why for most people, I want you to go with the Roth flavor versus the traditional. We're going to rewind to session 1 where we talked about somebody making $40,000 a year and putting aside 15%, which is $6,000. And I know you're already doing the 7, but just work with me. Just say you're putting aside $6,000. If you go with the Roth version of the two plans that Andrew just mentioned, when you put the 6,000 in, is the money you put in tax deductible? No. Okay, that's the bad news. You will pay tax that year on the entire 40,000. But here's the good news. When you retire and you take the money out, is it tax-free? Ding, ding, ding. Yes. Remember we talked about 10,000 growing to 450? Well, 6,000 proportionally will grow to 270,000. So when you retire and you begin to take out the 270,000, every dollar you take out is tax-free. Third row. Do you avoid having to take the money out starting at, depends on how old you are now, but call it 73 to 75? Yes. In the Roth flavor, you can let the money sit as long as you want. Meaning, if you were living comfortably just on your pension and didn't need to touch the other buckets, you could let it sit forever and give it to charity or relatives or whatever when you pass away. Now the traditional. You put the 6,000 in. The good news is you got a write-off on the 6,000. You would only pay tax that year on 34,000. That's the good news. But here's the bad news. The government isn't crazy. They were nice enough, in quotes, to give you the write-off up front. They're going to come a-calling for their tax down the road. So when your account grows to 270,000, look at this. Is the money you take out of the account tax-free? No. Every dollar you take out will be taxed. Third line, the government's also antsy. Depending on how old you are now, somewhere between 73 and 75, you are going to be forced to take money out every year so the government can get their hands on their taxes. So to summarize, for most people, when faced with the trade-off of paying a little bit of tax on 6,000 today or a boatload of tax on 270,000 tomorrow, they opt to go with the Roth. Again, we can have private calls if you want to discuss your own plans, but I would suggest for most of you, if you're in the traditional now, probably depending on how old you are, it doesn't make sense to try to convert it to a Roth, but you can change your future contributions and put those in a Roth. But we don't have time to go over everybody, and we don't want to share private numbers here today.
Right.
Okay.
We are at 134, just so you know.
Okay, and we're close to the end, but again, just like last time, we ran a little over, but you guys are so great with the questions that we willingly sit here. Okay, for those of you, again, we're going to replace this with 403B and 457. I want you to take that questionnaire because I'm going to bet you a nickel that the 4 yellow boxes you come up with are not the way your money is currently invested. And so you go back and rejigger your plan based on what you learned from the questionnaire. And you go and redo the way the money is divided now, and you redo your future contributions. Now, importantly, remember I said there are 10,000 baskets. There's a small opportunity that the ones being offered in your plan are the 4 that I talked about. Even if they do offer Vanguard, they may not offer all the Vanguard funds. So here's what you do. You call the administrator of the plan and you go, look, I did my homework. Here's my 4 yellow boxes. I can't really figure out on our plan which ones are similar, but don't worry about it. They'll walk you through and help you pick ones that are closest to what you want to invest in. For an IRA, any money you have outside of work, you're not limited by the 1521A plan. You can open it wherever you want, and you can use the same yellow baskets with your 401k, or excuse me, with your IRA that you wanted to have in your 403b. And then if you're lucky, super duper lucky, and you have money beyond a retirement plan, you can open an account at the same place where you had your IRA, because it doesn't make sense to spread your money out, and you use the same yellow baskets. So again, wherever you're putting your money, you got 4 baskets. You park them in the refrigerator at work, the refrigerator in the IRA, and the refrigerator in taxable. Easy peasy, okay? Same 4 baskets with the same splits. Okay? Now, I end with a few because I know we covered a lot. I promise we had to fasten our seatbelts, but take a step back. 4 funds, 2 stocks, 2 bonds. That's it. We're done. And you, I hope, can all utter those 4 magic words to yourselves. I can do this, and keep the entire 450 and not wind up with 300. So, one final sidebar. Everything we've been talking about up until now has related to you. How you can dream, how you can get out of debt, how you can save and invest. It's perfectly normal and appropriate to be thinking about you, particularly when many of you, if not all of you, grew up with really tough financial circumstances. But again, in the spirit of sharing my own odyssey through life, I have found that my life is richer, and by that I don't mean the amount of money in my bank account, but I mean my connection to society and people at large when I've thought about my relationship to those people, particularly those less fortunate than I. You may have even had this as part of your big why dream, helping people other than yourself, your kids, grandkids, parents, whatever. And so I conclude the course with the final joy of understanding money, giving. We give for a variety of reasons. A popular one is out of gratitude. It's what motivates me. And I love this quote. It's from Cicero, the Roman philosopher from over 2,000 years ago. Gratitude is not only the greatest of the virtues, but the parent of all of the others. Now, to be clear, particularly for those of you who are in debt right now, I'm not suggesting that you make your financial circumstances any harder by giving away money you don't have. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm suggesting at whatever stage you are with your money, that you look on giving it's called the 3 T's. You may have heard this term before. Giving of your time, talent, or treasure. Giving of your time. You can volunteer a couple hours at a charity or a cause that's near and dear to you and it costs you nothing. Giving of your talent. I had a student in a prior class who makes their living teaching music. We talked about how they could do a concert at a senior living facility. Again, they're giving their talent for music to help people, cost them nothing. And the third T, giving of treasure, literally of money, you can do that when and if you have it and you have the spirit that moves you to do so. And what I suggest you do, just like anything else in your budget, you establish guardrails. You say, with this amount of money that I'm making, I feel comfortable allocating X dollars, and you plan for it in your budget. It's not, in my own life, I find it's not just a noble thing to do, but being generous actually feels good. I think I read this somewhere that there's research that shows that endorphins or something kick in when we do nice things for people. So just something to keep in mind as you make this journey toward financial freedom. So a little bit of homework after today. I promise it won't take more than about 20 minutes. For anybody who has an investment plan outside of work, I don't want you to go on automatic pilot. I want you to go look at the expense ratios of what you're currently being charged and do your homework and make sure you're with the company where you should be. I want everybody, since 100% of you are in the pension plan at school, you all please go take this questionnaire and reallocate your money based on what you learned from this. I can't stress it enough. Remember, 90% of what happens to your money. And then walk through the various boxes, build your 4% of yellow boxes, and redeploy your money accordingly. And then finally, think about the 3 T's when the time is right. Remember, we said we're going to give you a copy of these slides. When you get the email from Katrelia and Andrea, it'll have this link will work and take you to the slides. Here's a quick recap. I know we covered a lot today. We ran over a bit, but I hope it was worthwhile. Here's a recap of the entire course, starting from the Big Why Dream up through Giving Generously. Speaking of which, of giving generously, give yourselves a big hand. Bravo to all of you for being here. You have all taken the very important first steps on your journey to the most personal financial freedom of all, which is your own. A quick thing before we take any final questions, particularly for those of you who weren't here last time. And I want to ask this in the chat before moving on. Anybody who's here today for the first time, who we're welcoming, who did not go to either session one, either version of session one, could you please just type in the chat the word yes? If you've been to a session one, don't type anything. If you're here for the first time, we want to welcome you and keep track. Please type the word yes right now in the chat. but particularly for those of you who weren't here, this first link takes you to my private calendar where you can book private, confidential, free one-on-one Zooms, as many as you want, to talk about your personal money situation. Unlike in today's session, which was a public forum, we can get into your personal situation and your numbers. I do not share them back with Andrea or Cotrelia or anybody. It's just between us chickens. And it's an opportunity to talk about your stuff without everybody and your fellow union members sitting around with you. Okay? 3 favors to ask of you, and none of which violates my for free principle. First, I want you all to follow me. Okay? Every week, I talked earlier about one of the videos. Every week, I post videos with tons of free money tips. These videos both reinforce what you've learned in the class and talk about a lot of stuff that we don't have time to cover in 2 90-minute sessions. So please, 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 I'm going to give you the link in the chat in a moment. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Please go follow me. You'll get a lot of education. You can make fun of what I look like in the videos. Number 2, we have a course questionnaire. It'll take you 5 minutes to fill out. Andrea, Cotrelia, and I really value your feedback. My joke is, give me a 5-star rating and a great quote. I'll put you on my website. Give me a crummy star rating and a bad quote. I won't put you on my website. But you will enable us to learn valuable information. What you liked most about the class, what we didn't cover that you'd like to cover, things that will make round 2 for your future members even better than this. So please take 5 minutes and fill it out. And then finally, if you have friends, relatives, communities that you think could benefit from this course, I judge my net worth now by how many people I help and teach. You've been through it now. You've seen there's no funny business. There's no cost. There's no nothing. Send your friends to me, and we can do a private or a public class depending on how many there are. So with that, I will stop sharing. And in the chat, if you give me a second, in the chat, I am now putting links to all those things we just talked about. Remember, the first link goes to my calendar. And I should have said, my calendar rolls on a 28-day period, meaning we're right now about at the end of May. If you go to book, you may see I'm totally booked up, but as I joked last time, I'm not the Taylor Swift tickets. Tomorrow, a new date will roll on. So just keep looking, and eventually you will get time. Remember, completely free, have as many as you want. And then there's the link. Go follow me, watch my videos and the questionnaire and the my website. And
Amelie has a question.
yeah, yes, and I'm just looking here in the chat. It looks like, I'm just looking quickly to confirm that I don't see any yeses, meaning everybody that's here has gone to session 1, that nobody is here for the first time. Is that correct? Remember, I said, please type the word yes if you're here for the first time. Can everybody do that? But I'm not seeing any. But anyway, what, Katreya said there's a question, so please ask the question.
Yes, I was curious about the CD. You didn't mention anything about the certificate
Yes.
of deposit.
Yes, excellent question, because you're asking a more advanced thing, Armanui. I hope I said your name correctly. Okay.
Yeah.
I stay away from CDs. Let me explain what they are. A CD is a savings account where you lock your money up, and there's a penalty for taking it out before the end of the period. And the periods can run from 3 months to 5 years. When I was a kid, CDs were paying a good premium, meaning there was a reason to maybe lock money up because it paid a lot higher rate of interest. Today, CDs pay no better than a savings account. So why in the world would you lock up money and suffer a penalty to take it out when you can just keep it in a high yield savings account, either in the credit unions accounts that Katreya talked about last time, or in a bank like I give you on Bankrate. So again, don't give yourself a hard time. If you have a CD now and want to follow my advice, you let it mature so you don't pay a penalty. You do not roll it over. You just keep it in a high yield savings account. Okay, but that's my feeling on CDs. Stay away. Okay, and while anybody else is thinking of a final question or final questions, we're happy to stay around for a while. We owe a huge round of applause to your fearless leader, Andrea, and our fearless head of wellness, Miss Cotrelia, for making this happen. Without them and inviting me to take what I had done at one of your 9 schools and do it for the headquarters and all 9 schools, I wouldn't be here. So they were terrific. They're the ones that kept promoting this thing. They ran the chat, they ran all the questions, they put in the polling questions. Without them, I could not have done this. So please thank your union folks. And with that, any other questions before they close us out? Questions from anybody?
I do have a question.
Yes.
So I'm going to try and switch to Vanguard for my 403B.
Yes.
I have a personal IRA as well. Does Vanguard do those too?
Absolutely. That's where mine is.
Okay,
But again, I
cool.
don't sell anything. You do what you and remember, I have to tell you, for anybody who wants to move their money from company A to B, I'm not even talking Vanguard. When you call the company, you tell them, here's the magic incantation. I want, everybody write this down. I want to do what is called a quote, direct transfer rollover. That means that there are no tax consequences moving your IRA from zone 1 to zone 2. Everybody understand that?
Perfect.
Yeah, and you and the companies, depending on where you go, it's been 100 years since I did my transfer, but I believe Vanguard will either handle it for you, or you just give them the account number of your old company, or they will handhold you through the paperwork on the call to help you do it. But you do not close out an IRA and take the money because there's going to be taxes and a mess.
Right.
You don't ever touch it. You just do what I just said, direct transfer rollover. And in a similar way, if any of you ever worked someplace before being a staff guild member at one of the city colleges, and you left your 403B or 401k, whatever it was, at the other company, get it the heck out of there tomorrow. You make a clean financial and emotional break with where you were employed. I have a video online about that where people go, oh yeah, I worked at a place and they got sold and the company name changed and I forgot where the money is. You don't leave money. You transfer it into your own IRA and you keep it all in one place so it's under your wing, not at some place you no longer work for. I know it's more than you wanted, but I just want to make sure anybody who, I'm sure you're all loyal and have all been with the community college network for years, but if you haven't and you left an old account, move it tomorrow.
And then the 403B I have, they've structured it like an annuity. Is that anything that rollover makes any changes?
Oh, okay. Well, you had an annuity. This is from a former employer?
No, it's from this one. I threw a dart and picked a 403B without doing a lot of research.
Okay. Okay. We should probably talk privately.
Okay.
It's not work,
Got it.
but I think what I'm going to tell you is I want you to get out of the annuity.
Yeah, I would love to.
Okay.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Sure. No, those are great questions. Anybody
Okay.
else?
There's a question here from Jeffrey.
Yes.
Someone told me that if you feel you are currently comfortable in your lifestyle, income, or expenses, that you should aim for at least 85% of your current income for your retirement income. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, that is one of the rules of thumb that people have talked about. And the logic is, well, certain things are going to go down, like your transportation costs because you're no longer going to work. And maybe your clothing budget because you don't need, depending on what your job is, you don't need the same kind of clothes. On the other hand, other expenses like travel or medical may go up as you age. But it's a nice number to shoot for. Okay, but as I joke in the class, the more you have put aside, the more comfortable your retirement's going to be, right? God forbid you die with too much money. You give it to the kids in charity, right? There's no downside to having too much money.
Got another question here. Amanui wants to know, what's the point of investing in a 403B when the district doesn't match your investments?
Oh, because remember, okay, I closed out of the slides. Remember one of the other green yeses, the tax deferred or tax free. If for every dollar let's just say you ignore the plan at work, and then all you have left is the IRA where you can only put aside 7,000 or a taxable account. You'd rather have the money tax protected. So yes, it's better to have a match because free money is better than not free money. But you don't not invest in a tax protected account simply because you don't get the match. I hope that was clear. Okay? You take as much match as you can get, but you don't stop with that. You continue to go for the tax protected. And that means putting more money in the 403B and 457 at work. And then, like I said, I don't want to know how much money you make. We're not talking about it here. And then we roll to the 7 or 8,000 in the IRA. And only then, as a last resort, do we put money in the taxable account. Okay. But again, I'm glad you asked. That's a good question. Anyone else? Okay. Well, with that, you guys have fallen just about 7 minutes short of my all-time longest class in history, which we're not bemoaning. We're celebrating because you were so involved. I love this. I will turn it over to my esteemed colleagues to close us out.
Okay. Oh, we have a hand.
Oh,
Anna
yes,
Maria.
please.
Okay. So I used to have a 401k with Vanguard,
Yes.
and then they transferred it over to a power company. I haven't looked at it yet. A power something. Why would they transfer it out? I no longer am with that company, with the company that I had the Vanguard with.
Wait a minute, but hold on just for a minute.
Mhm.
Did you
I was
leave?
working.
Did
Yeah, I
you
left it.
you okay. You left the company plan in the 401k?
Yes.
Okay. The short answer is I don't know, but what I want you to do now, as what I said 5 minutes ago,
Get it out of there.
bingo, you need to be a good steward of your own money. And
Yes.
okay, I don't want you to be like those other people who forgot where the money was. You go move it tomorrow into whatever investment company you want to have it in, doing what's called a direct transfer rollover, where that 401k will become an IRA in your own account because you're no longer a company, right? You understand
I
that?
would want to roll it into an IRA
Yes.
within my company
No, no, you can't do
or
that. No, no, no. No,
outside
no.
of my company.
The
Okay.
IRA is on your own at Fidelity, Vanguard, wherever you go. But
Okay.
the 401k, or in your case, or 403b in the union, is only in an employer plan. There's no such
Okay.
thing as an IRA in an employer plan.
Okay.
So you decide on Vanguard or wherever, you call them and go, look, I have an old 401k at this company. I want to do a direct transfer rollover into an IRA in your company, and they'll help you do it.
Okay. Sounds
Okay,
good.
great.
Okay.
All right.
And if I have a profit sharing company as well, I could do that too.
Yeah, well, I don't know how that plan is structured. If it's something where it's like a pension and you can't move it, I don't really know on that one. But here's what I would do. You're being wise. You call that company and say, what are my options? Am I stuck where I just get a monthly payment, or can I lump sum move the money? You have to do a little bit of homework so I can more intelligently answer.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to schedule an appointment with you because they did send me forms for me to withdraw my money.
Well, but you're taking the first step now. I love it. You're becoming, really involved with your money like you should, and we can explore what you do. But either way, I want you to be on top of your money. Okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. I think we covered everything. And we just can't thank you enough, Bruce, really. The wisdom that you have shared with us is just life-changing for many of us, myself particularly.
Thank you.
And we just appreciate you. Thank you for keeping on top of me.